Since the conference, news surrounding your party has been fairly quiet. Things are ramping up again as Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana announced their respective slates for your party's CEC elections, in which voting will take place between the 9th and the 23rd of February. Last year, the party voted for a collective leadership model instead of one sole leader. These CEC elections will see members of the party voted into a broad leadership team. This is Jeremy Corbyn announcing for the many today.
Let's get your party back on track.
The last 6 months have been difficult, but now we have a chance to turn things around because your party is about to elect its first leadership team. And we have a choice. Do we take the fight to Starmer and Farage or fight each other? Are we a party for the people or a party for ourselves?
When your party was first announced, hundreds of thousands of people were excited at the prospect of a mass party that could challenge for real change, not a fringe party scrapping at the margins.
They saw the potential for the broad alliance, forged by the energy of the pro-Palestinian movement and the deep anger at the Starmer's Labour, but that alliance has been damaged. It needs repair.
That's why we are launching The Many, a campaign to build that mass left party that can bring about real change.
Our approach has 3 pillars. We will win people to our cause by campaigning tirelessly on issues that matter to them, from sky-high bills to the housing crisis and the NHS privatisation.
We will mend our cross-community coalition by focusing on what unites us, not what drives us apart.
Restoring trust in the left where it has been broken.
And we will build our base by organising in working class communities. This has to work. We owe it to the millions abandoned by Labour, struggling to make ends meet, to everyone horrified at the government's complicity in genocide, and to all those on the sharp end of far-right racism.
Let's unite on a socialist platform committed to putting wealth and power in the hands of the majority, not the billionaires and corporations.
From the picket line to the ballot box, this party can rise to the moment. So sign up today.
And together, we will build a party for the many.
Now, this excerpt from a statement made by the Many Slate. It reads, "The Many will field candidates for the first elections to your party CEC, which will constitute the party's collective leadership. Corbyn is expected to run alongside fellow MPs Shoka Adam and Ayub Khan, who spoke at the party's founding conference in November. Other candidates for the Many include Laura Smith, a former firebrand left-wing Labour MP under Corbyn, who is now an independent councillor, and Louise Reagan, a senior trade unionist with the National Education Union and the national chair of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. In the launch video, the Many recognises the damage done to your party in the recent months, but promises to repair the social alliance that the party promised, united by outrage at British complicity in Israel's Gaza genocide and disillusionment with Starmer's Labour." Now, meanwhile, Zara Sultana unveiled the Grassroots Left, in which she describes as a member-led campaign for real democracy, empowered branches and socialist anti-imperialist politics.
I'm Zara Sultana and I'm a Your Party Member of Parliament.
I'm a community activist and Your Party Bristol organiser.
I'm a mother and an ex-Labour parliamentary candidate in a Red Wall seat.
I'm a teacher.
I'm a community organiser, reparations campaigner and RMT union activist.
I'm standing for the CEC
because I want a strong party that's built from the ground up.
I want to ensure we can build a party with strong local branches.
With power in members' hands.
I want a party able to stand up for public ownership
and real distribution.
I want to stand against war and imperialism.
I want a party that stands unequivocally
with Venezuela, Congo, Sudan and Palestine.
And all other places suffering at the hands of imperialism.
I want a party that won't betray the working class.
A party where at least 50% of membership subs go straight to branches for local campaigns.
Because branches know their communities.
And communities win local struggles and fights.
Because we know socialism isn't delivered from the top.
It's built together
from below.
We oppose NATO
and the forever wars that politicians drag us into.
We stand on picket lines with trade unions.
And we will defend marginalised communities.
And we confront the far right.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Because if you come for one of us,
You come for all of us.
All of us.
For all of us.
all of us.
We didn't lead the Labour Party
To build another top-down machine.
That means no more witch hunts.
The Grassroots Left slate will fight for openness.
And accountability.
for recallable representatives,
Real member control.
Together, we will build
A democratic,
Pluralist.
Socialist Party.
One that can win power.
and never lose itself.
Once it does.
When you receive your ballot,
Vote for the Grassroots Left.
Vote for the Grassroots Left.
Vote for the Grassroots Left.
You will get your data, your money,
your candidate.
Because it's your party.
Your party.
your party.
Let's win maximum member democracy.
And build a party we can all be proud to call our own.
Now, candidates included in the Grassroots Left will be Democratic Socialists for your party, Max Shanley, Fire Brigades Union officer Ricardo Latorre, and Anjona Roy, an activist for Unison. Sources from the party describe this as a proxy war, as Sky News reported on the 12th. The list endorsed by Ms Sultana has called itself the Grassroots Left slate and includes both her and Mr Corbyn. However, the former Labour leader is understood to be upset about this, as he had asked for his name to be taken off this slate. He feels the inclusion of his name gives the impression that this is a unity list that he was involved with and endorses. Yet another source had a different tone when speaking to Novara Media. Candidates have legitimate disagreements about the direction and strategy of the New Left Party, and that members getting to... let me start that again. Candidates have legitimate disagreements about the direction and strategy of the New Left Party, and that members getting to choose a leadership team that reflects their issues is what building a democratic party is all about. The Your Party source added, these elections can draw a line in the sand and empower a new CEC to move forward and focus on the issues that matter. Now, when the party was first announced, they enjoyed favourable polling, including one in which the party was level pegging with Labour, both receiving 15%. Yet, since the internal fights and the surge in support for the Greens has seen, the party have lost momentum, with a recent poll putting them on less than 1%. 0.6 to be precise, which is a far cry from the double-digit polling last year. Now, it's worth pointing out that this is only one poll. Canifesto, what do you think of Corbyn and Sultana being on different slates? Is this a proxy war or a genuine democratic process where robust debates can be had?
I don't necessarily think I'd capitulate to the mainstream media's framing of this being a proxy war. I think that's obviously trying to churn a certain narrative. But I will comment on the two different wings that you have here, and you have always had since the conception of your party, which is the Corbyn wing and Sultana's wing, Grassroots Left and the Many. Now, when we take a look at the membership model of your party and the sort of membership model that they're trying to go for the elections, you see something very similar to France, for example, with the New Popular Front, or other trade unions across Europe and Latin America. And specifically in France, which was a broad coalition of left-wing parties, but didn't have a single leader despite having many prominent figures within the party, it worked. I mean, in 2024 in the National Assembly, they gained a majority. So if I'm commenting purely off the two wings and approaches we have had here, the skepticism about a grassroots movement and a grassroots collective leadership model not working can be remedied by the fact there's already a party that's successfully done this in Western Europe. Now, on the other hand, I think one of the things you could argue here is the fact there's already two opposing wings to begin with there marks a real issue. But these things are prominent within political parties, and I'd argue largely if the base is covered on an alignment on policy, domestically and internationally, you can have real success. And like you said, it's still early days. So I think we need to wait to see what happens. But I do think Zara Sultana is offering a fresh alternative that if members want to go for it, they can. And personally, I believe that there's never too many options for a left-wing party in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of the polling? I mean, do you think they can regain support once the party becomes more sort of outward facing? Do you think that they'll be able to bring that that back and get back to where they were last year?
I think that they can if they focus on grassroots organizing, especially union connectedship. But I think you cannot divorce from the fact, even with like the new Popular Front that I was talking about in France, you need a coalition of parties to not split the left, right? So it is one thing, of course, organizing to get those numbers up, but another thing is looking at alignments that they can make with the Green Party. That's completely essential here. If you have small scale representation but genuine grassroots movements, what you end up with is something like the Trade Union Socialist Coalition, essentially small numbers but is punished under first past the post. But if you essentially have some sort of party alignment that Zara, Sultana, and Corbyn have spoke about, then you can have real success in numbers. So I think what we can learn from here is, there needs to be a balance of both grassroots movements, but also a balance of sharing the vote so it doesn't get split, so they can boost those numbers higher.
But can they get that party alignment if you've got Zara Sultana's team putting Corbyn's name down on a slate when Corbyn hasn't consented to that, and then Corbyn's getting angry about the fact that they're doing that? We're just seeing more of the same, are we not? I mean, there was lots of talk at party conference about the divisions and the divides, and Zara talked to me about unnamed bureaucrats who many in the party named very loudly and very clearly as people within Corbyn's camp. So if unity is the key, and if as the many slate have suggested, that they want to try and unite together, and they're recognizing some of the problems of the past, but they want to bring it together to a form of unity. Why aren't they standing together? Why are they even putting these two opposing slates, against each other? We're just seeing more of the same, are we not? I mean, there was lots of talk at party conference about the divisions and the divides, and Zara talked to me about unnamed bureaucrats who many in the party named very loudly and very clearly as people within Corbyn's camp. So if unity is the key, and if as the many slate have suggested, that they want to try and unite together, and they're recognizing some of the problems of the past, but they want to bring it together to a form of unity. Why aren't they standing together? Why are they even putting these two opposing slates, against each other, and not just saying as one voice, these are the candidates we'd like to put forward, let's all stand and vote on individual merit rather than on which tie of the party which wing of the party you tie yourself to?
Well, in political parties, generally, you will have different factions or different sects. I mean, even within the Green Party, you had the more broad church alignment that you had with Ellie Challenger and Adrian Ramsey compared to Zach Polanski's more populist narrative, which in the end his wing got mandated, and it's introduced mechanisms within the party.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I do think that's a little bit different though, because with the Greens, at least the Green Party are established. People already know who they are. They've already got policies and procedures in place. Publicly, people know who the Green Party are. So when you've got small factions and you've got, even if it's big factions at the top in terms of leadership debates, the party itself kind of remains the same. Until the CEC is established, nobody actually knows what your party is going to look like. So surely it's more important than it's more important to be different from those other parties and not to have those factions, surely.
Well, again, if that wing gets mandated, which is Sultana's wing, I would argue that the mechanisms introduced could favor some similarity to the Green Party. And in that, there will always be political discussions, but ultimately what will happen is you have recallable delegates, like they mentioned, and you will have a one member, one vote thing across the board. So I do think there are similarities here. There are teething issues, which of course have been amplified by the fact that these are two very different opposing aisles, which, we thought we're going to have a unified line. So I do think, like, as much as I hate to say it, I do think we need to have patience. But if I go back to what I was talking about earlier, especially with the new Popular Front in France, too much sectarianism can cause small-scale numbers, right? You have genuine grassroots movements, but they don't have electoral viability. That is one thing I am worried about your party with a collective leadership model. Electoral viability goes down the drain because when you look to the electorate, they can't point to one leader. The Green Party have that now. Their main issue holding them back before, I would argue, was the co-leader arrangement with Carlo Denia and Adrian Ramsey, but now they have one populist leader. To remedy that, I think what your party needs to do is move to a party alliance with the Green with the Greens in general. We have to see how that plays out, but there needs to be balance here where you do have left unity electorally, but you have something new, something fresh, which is a grassroots sort of organising method.
How do you think the CEC setup will go down with the public? Because obviously, like you say, that the Green Party seem to struggle with the dual leadership, and this is kind of
Yeah.
like what your party are doing now is kind of what the Green Party did 15, 20 years ago, where
Yeah.
you've got like a committee at the top that are making the decisions, and then you have the spokespeople that will be the public facing, people of the party. Do you think the general public will get that? Do you think they'll understand it, or do you think it'll just add more confusion?
I think that in terms of viability, it will cause confusion ultimately. That is where I sit with the collective leadership model. I'm afraid I'm in agreement with you there. I think there are issues. I was really hoping with the Green Party they'd get rid of the co-leadership model because it just doesn't work. People in times, especially when we're seeing a trend in right-wing populism, want an authoritarian leader, right? That doesn't mean you have to be authoritarian back, but it means you need to be populist. I mean, Zach Polanski talks about that a lot. He says, populism without solutions create problems, and that's what Farage does. He's a populist, but he doesn't have any real solutions, whereas Polanski is a populist, but he offers solutions. In that respect, your party will struggle massively in trying to get to the broad electorate who aren't massively engaged in politics, to sell them on a collective leadership model, let alone the UK has never seen something like this before. It's not the early 1920s or the post-war period as well, where these sort of collective party models are operating. It's a time in which people are more and more less engaged with politics, and they want something they can, point to like that. So I think that is going to cause an issue. Again, I just think there needs to be a unity between the Green Party and your party if your party wants to succeed. I think one could make the argument in a utilitarian sense, even if this from a certain perspective, I suppose, doesn't work, or there's a lack of electoral viability, a genuine democratic socialist party can be there to keep these ideas alive. And I think those things are important. Political parties capitulate here and there. That's no different from, your party to the Green Party. That's just, we live in a liberal democracy. These things will happen. But I think it is important, even with some failures, if your party carries that forward, that there are genuine ideas of a large-scale democratic socialist economy, even if somewhat untenable. And I think Green Party members can benefit from that just as much.
I think obviously the concern within the Green Party at the moment is that they don't know what they're agreeing to sort of sign up to, because without proper policies and proper policy ideas around different issues, for the Greens it's very much of, well, who are your party and what do they stand for? Because we know what Corbyn stands for, we know what Sultana stands for, but the party as a movement hasn't made that decision yet of what they want to. I mean, they've outlined some things. They want to say that they're socialists. They want to say that they're for working class people. Great, brilliant. We can get behind that. But what does it look like in terms of actual policy? And I mean, Zara's very vocally distanced herself from the Green Party over issues like NATO and the fact that Zach Polanski says that he would have diplomatic relationships with Israel. Now, from so that's from their perspective, but from the Greens' perspective, apart from that, we don't actually know what your party policy is. Something that I wanted to add, though, which I found really interesting when we covered the Your Party conference, a lot of members, mainly I heard this from people that didn't vote for the collective leadership, but even from those that did, were very quick to point out the fact that this is I think it's like a 2-year period that this will be in play for. Before the membership will then make a decision again as to whether they want to continue with the model that they've got or want a different leadership model. And I think there are many within your party that are hoping that this CEC setup will essentially be about the founding and the formation of the party. It will get the party up off the ground. It will get the policies decided on. It will get the party to a place where it's a much easier thing to present to the general public. And then I think the hope for some, it was a 52-48 vote, in favour of collective leadership. I think the hope for the rest is that in years or so's time, they'll go back to the members, and the members will then say, right, now it's time to have an actual leader, who can represent us, who is a single person, or maybe joint, depending on what they decide, once the general sort of formation of the party has had chance to, once they've had a couple of years just to work things out and to work out who they are. And I think it'll be easy for the Green Party at that stage to then say, actually, we're happy to get involved with an electoral pact with you because we know what you're about.
Yeah, I think there is a safe bet that, generally speaking, from what we know about your party members and the defections and the general sense of values that Corbyn and Sultana stand for, that there will be some alignment. Of course, there is some sort of issues in terms of, with the representations that you have within Corbyn's slate, specifically with ties to, of course, previously the Liberal Democrats, or people that are standing only on like the Gaza issue, but not necessarily working class issues, which is, of course, nothing wrong with standing for Palestine. Absolutely not. Everyone should stand with Palestine unequivocally. The issue is when it's a single issue vote sort of thing, and there's disalignment on other socialist values. It is a bit weird to have a landlord in that slate, for example. It doesn't really add up. So, yeah, I think there will be those teething issues there, but I personally believe that without a layer of bureaucracy, if this is devolved to the members and, Sultana's wing does get mandated, these things will be easier to remedy, as every individual will have more likely a voice that they can, every individual will be able to voice their concern a lot easier compared to a far more bureaucratic model under Corbyn. So it's about taking a utilitarian view in this respect, where we're choosing which model we think will fit best for the members, rather than people that perhaps have different motives, either ideological or perhaps what they think will be best for the party. And we need to swing it in a direction where there's unity across your party and the Greens, based on a far more grassroots level.